Welcome everyone, and welcome to the first Scottish Regional Industry Group webinar. My name is Donna Festerazzi. For those who have not yet met me, I'm the chair of the regional group. Today we have a few speakers. We have Caroline and Doug from the IRM who have basically agreed to come in and talk to you today about obviously everything that's happening in the IRM, bearing in mind that we're in this kind of new normal, COVID at home, and we just thought it would be good to kind of start talking and sharing some knowledge and lessons and best practice amongst us, which we would usually do in an event in a room, in a forum together. So the next few events will definitely be online. So I know it's not exactly what everyone wants, but I think it's at this point in time it's the only way we can communicate with each other. So this is the first one, so hopefully you enjoy it. We do have a placeholder, just so you know, for March in an event in a room. So hopefully if everything goes back to normal, we will get to see each other again in a face-to-face forum. But the next three online events will be October, November and January, and you can see them through the IRM webpage, which is on the screen below, and also through the regional group LinkedIn page. We also have our first publication. I'm hoping that you all seen the Scottish newsletter that came out that had quite a lot of information around which I and the committee have been working on. And we were really happy to have Alex Larson contribute in terms of a risk management article about, I think it was risk in the Battle of Bannockburn with Robert the Bruce. So hopefully you've been able to have a quick read at that and see his take. So we're hoping to do more publications going forward as well. So today, as I've said, we're going to have Carolyn Williams, and Carolyn is going to talk about basically a general update on what is happening in the IRM, and obviously the merger with the IOR and how that is bringing some benefits and resources to a lot of the Scottish RIG members, and just really what's happening in the IRM at the moment. Then we have Doug, who is going to talk to us about the new recently launched IRM training and what is available. I know that there has been a momentous amount of training going on, with us all being kind of put in and stuck indoors and just trying to make sure we cover all those things that maybe we haven't done when we've been out and about all the time. So Doug will give us an update on that, and then I'll just bring us to a close at the end. So if I could get my screen to work. So just now I'm going to hand you over to Caroline, who will talk to you about the IRM. So I'll just mute my mic here, Caroline.
Hi. So welcome to everybody to this meeting. Some of you may know me already. I do spend quite a lot of time in normal times going around and visiting the different groups that we have around the world. And of course, when everything started to close down back in March, we very quickly had to pivot from being a face-to-face group organisation to being one that immediately turned to doing things online. And as I was saying to Donna before we started, we've all had to learn new skills. We've all had to adapt and learn new ways of working, and that's challenging and stretching, as well as possibly stressful. So we're all in a new world here, and working out how to get things going and how to do the best we can in that new organisation. So the IRM office. If you haven't met us, if you don't know us, IRM only has a small central office compared to the size of the whole organisation. There are 29 of us in total, and we have an office in the City of London. We could really be anywhere because we're an international organisation, but that was where IRM was founded 30 years ago, so that is where the office is. And the office closed down in accordance with the government requirements back in the middle of March, and everybody switched to working from home. And I think we've rather surprised ourselves really by how much we have got done, and how people have adapted, how people have really pitched in and kept services going for members and for students throughout all that period. Now, as things have thawed out a little, people have started to go back into the office. We have a database and admin manager, Busy, who runs our IT systems, and he goes in, kicks the servers, makes sure everything is, continues to work, because I think we've learned one of the main things that we all need is really excellent IT support. So we really find out who are the important people in the office when something like this happens. So Busy and the couple of people who work with him have done an amazing job in keeping everybody's laptops fired up, keeping our VPN working to make sure that we're sort of secure and stable. We've done things with transferring telephone calls to mobiles, basically put in place the infrastructure that we would normally have in the office to allow people to work mainly from home. Now, when things started to relax a little bit, we did our risk assessment in order to ensure that we had a COVID-19 compliant workplace. We have an office within a larger building that's owned by Marsh eventually. Marsh are our ultimate landlords, and it's lucky we're only on the second floor, so we don't have lift issues that they have had in some of the city tower blocks. But we have worked out that we can accommodate about 12 people safely in our office. So we've done a rota that allows teams, allocates different days to different teams, and if they wish to come in on those days and meet up, then they can. But again, they don't have to do it. It's something for the teams to decide on operational reasons. And we also have overlaying that the consultation that we did with the staff to work out whether there were people who, for their own well-being, actually needed to have access to an office, and we've factored that into that as well. So we have over the past couple of months, we've had a few people coming in each day. Then I think we've now, we've been told in England, I think it's, things are different in Scotland and in other parts of the country, but we have to sort of rein back a little bit. It doesn't actually form a requirement yet, but the government has let it be known that we should work from home if we possibly can. So I'm not expecting to see so many people coming in now, but the ability is there, and that helps us to keep the service going. But looking at the particular things that IRM provides for people, I mean, the most important thing that we do, and the reason that IRM was formed, is our examinations for risk professionals. So, of course, we had, when everything closed down in March, we had one cohort of students who were due to take their examinations in June. And we were busy recruiting for the next cohort of students who will be taking exams around November, December this year. So, and then of course, our exams are run by Pearson VUE, who provide examination centres for us around the world. And our certificate students in particular go into a Pearson VUE centre, sit in front of a computer, do their certificate exams. And of course, Pearson VUE had to close their examination centres, and it was very, very unclear whether they would be able to open them for the June exam sessions. So Barbara and her team did an incredible amount of work to produce a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a backup plan for the various scenarios that we were foreseeing in terms of examinations. And I think the main decision we took when Pearson, as time went on, Pearson VUE really could not guarantee that the exam centres would be available. So we decided to switch the certificate examinations from June into November, so people would take them in November. And generally that went down rather well, because I think people were concerned about, you know, their own personal circumstances, whether they would be having time and mental inclination to study during the heavy lockdown period. So we now have a double cohort going through in November. That was the main bulk of the students, but we also have a lot of students doing other things. We have diploma students who do written paper and pencil type exams. We have some people finishing the old certificates exams on a different basis. And Barbara's team actually took the diploma exams completely online, and they allowed people to take the exams in their own home. People were told about what the exam questions would be, and then they had to return their written papers within a certain amount of time. And that meant Barbara and her team had for several days a 24-hour sort of vigil to make sure, because we had to release the examination questions at a particular time, which was a different time all around the world. And so people could be phoning with queries if they couldn't get online, they couldn't get their papers or whatever. We had to have people available around the clock in order to support the students in that way. And again, that we had very good feedback from that. Our exams are well examined and moderated in any case, so we didn't have concerns about the quality of what people were doing. We learned some valuable lessons there in terms of assessment for the future. So the exams team really pulled out all the stops to provide a fairly seamless experience for our students going forward. And we're hopefully, that will continue, because of course it hasn't stopped yet. And although we now have a lot of students booked in to do exams in November, who knows what exam centres around the world are going to be able to open in November. I think the general view seems to be that a lot will. The Pearson view, like everybody, have done a lot to make their exam centres COVID secure. It will depend on lockdown arrangements in different parts of the country, different places around the world. And again, we have a plan A, we have a plan B, and we have a backup plan, so that we can switch to a system that doesn't involve students going to exam centres. But you can imagine the work that's gone into this, and we're very proud of the team for keeping that going, and at the same time providing the usual support to the students and recruiting the next batch of students, because risk management has really never been such an important issue. And we're very much hoping that this is going to reflect in an increased interest in the tools and the techniques and the skills that organisations have to apply in that area. So we're hoping that it will actually generate new interests, more students, and a larger role for the profession. So please, go out, tell everybody about the sort of things that you learn through IRM studies and the relevance of those to the sort of the problems and the challenges that we find ourselves facing today. So part of this about looking to the future is about we are relaunching our diploma exam. I don't know how many of you have taken the certificate or the diploma, but the certificate is our one-year exam that gives you the basic grounding in enterprise risk management or risk management for financial services. And then if you want to go on and to take your studies further and get a qualification that is of a sort of equivalent level to those accountants, those lawyers, those internal auditors, those chartered insurance people who you might meet, then you go on and take the diploma. Now, I think Doug, will perhaps go into more detail about this, because Doug has been very much involved with this. But it's like every qualification, you have to continually refresh and review what you're teaching people. So we've taken the diploma apart and reviewed whether is what we are teaching relevant for the future? Are we covering everything we need to do? And are we also operationally delivering the study materials and assessing the knowledge in an up-to-date way that takes full advantage of technology? So one of the things we're going to do is do away with written exams for the diploma, and instead it will be an assignment-based assessment process, which makes it much more relevant to workplace situations. So we're making it more appealing and more relevant to us, to risk professionals going forward. So that again is people who now sign up for the diploma from now will be on the new programme. We always have overlapping programmes, so if you've already started the diploma, there will be a pathway for you through that, but the new students will be on the new diploma framework. And again, we're hoping that that will help to build the profession. So that's on the education side. I'm just going to close that door because our phone is ringing. So training. One of the big things that IRM is involved with is training, and you know, we have hundreds of people from around the world who come in and come to our offices in London in order to do face-to-face training courses. And of course that had to stop straight away and hasn't yet been able to start up again. But our training team immediately started looking at whether they could turn the face-to-face training, perhaps the fundamentals of risk management course or some of the more sort of technical courses, into online courses using the Zoom technology or whatever particular sort of video conferencing technology they could find. And again, we've been really surprised by how popular that has been. And we've also found that people can come and they are willing to do the training, whereas they might not have been able to travel to London to do it, but they can log on and do it from their own home. So we found some of the things have to be adjusted a little bit, because although you might do a training course from 9 in the morning till 5 at night, it's quite exhausting to sit in front of a computer screen for that amount of time. So our trainers have rejigged the material, worked out how to put people into groups, how to pace the day so that people are not exhausted by the end of the day. And a lot of the training is carried on. And we've also continued to have a lot of interest in in-house training. People are taking advantage of the ability to have this delivered online, which means we don't have to fly trainers around the world, which is good. And we're building that work as well. We've also developed a true e-learning course in risk and resilience, and this is available. You sign in and you do everything online. There isn't a trainer involved, so you do it in your own time. And it's been a little bit slower than we thought it might be, but it's there, and this is a new step forward for us, providing a completely online experience. So some innovation, some adaptation going on there in the training area. The slides I've got here they've got links where the the blue text is, so they will be available afterwards. So if you want to sort of learn anything more about particular things there, where there's a link, you can click on that. So our membership team, and I'm hoping that Juliet will be able to join us later on. Juliet's our membership manager, and she's responsible for helping the groups and keeping everything running in respect to the groups. All our group meetings, again, IRM was very much a face-to-face thing. We all love meeting up and having a chat and doing a bit of networking and meeting people. All had to stop, of course. And but again, I was amazed by how quickly our groups adapted to what was going on, and we've had, you know, most of our groups now have had some online meetings, and some have been extremely well attended, particularly the meetings of the special interest groups, which always had a challenge that they would tend to be in London, and although people from around our membership were interested in the topics, they couldn't necessarily attend. So we found that using the online facilities do make the meetings a lot more inclusive. And we've had people joining the meetings from not just different parts of the UK, but from all around the world. So that it does offer members outside that London area much more access to other people's thoughts. So that's continued pretty well. Obviously, like Donna said, we're all looking forward to being able to get back together again, you know, sometime next year, I think is what we're having to sort of put in place at the moment. hopefully we can get a balance, because we need to be able to preserve some of these advantages that we've found from this new way of working, as well as going back to what worked for us before as well. Membership operations, again, the team are there. Hopefully, if you have any issues with your membership, we sent out the renewal back in July, and most people have actually done something about it. There's always a few who lose it down the bottom of their in trays, and the team will be chasing up people, particularly if you've got the letters after your name, because that means that you belong to this professional community, and if you don't belong to the professional community, you can't have the letters after your name. So we take some care to help people preserve those, having done all the hard work to get them. There's also the membership, so the elections for the IRM board, and all the qualifying members should have received an email pointing to you to the CVs of all the particular candidates for the board. So please participate, join in, have a look and see who's standing, and hopefully we'll get the great board going forward. Communications and research. When the crisis broke, being the Institute of Risk Management, and with all the contacts in the community we have, a lot of people had a lot to say about what was going on. And we have put together some resource pages that link together pieces of work that our members have sent in that they have been involved with, also links to organisations that we partner with, like the Cambridge Centre for Risk Studies, World Economic Forum, and bringing together in one place, not a huge pages and pages of stuff, because we're all very good at Google, we can find stuff, but just a few that specifically have come to our attention through members of the IRM mostly. So we put that together on a resource page for people. Again, it's had to change over time because the situation changes. We also carried out, and many of you I hope will remember this and will have participated in this, within a few weeks of things happening, we put out a survey to see how the risk management profession was responding to what was going on. And we were quite overwhelmed actually, because we had about 1,000 responses, and normally when we send out a survey like this, we'll be happy if we get 100, but 1,000 people from around the world were moved to respond to this, which was excellent. And that gave us some good pointers as to how prepared people were for a situation like this, how they felt their risk management training and their preparation had set them up, what they found was important, and that was a useful sort of benchmarking survey for us. We're going to repeat it towards the end of the year to see what people have learned. And so if you look out for that coming out at the moment, in sort of November-ish, to review where we think the profession is now. To some extent, you say, well, this is the Institute of Risk Management. They do think risk management is important, but we'll be looking for sort of evidence that risk management has actually helped organisations through this crisis, and the risk thinking helps with clarity as to what's going on. So, risk leaders. This is the name of our main conference that has taken place every year for about 10 years. Unfortunately, because that was due to take place in November, and it is very much a face-to-face event, we've had to postpone that one into 2021 because we felt there was really we just couldn't rely on being able to invest in a major face-to-face event with hundreds of people in November, which is the scheduled date. And I think that has been the right decision, because the plans that we did have in the UK to start opening up the conference spaces have been stopped, and that's not going to happen now. So the chances are that would not have happened in any event. So 2021 we're looking forward to. And the theme there about climate change in a post-pandemic world remains so important, because we still have to tackle all these issues of climate change, but we have to do it in a world that has been affected by COVID-19. So the challenges have multiplied in that area. So the topic remains very, very, very important. but the event has had to be postponed. But hopefully that will be brought back in 2021. A couple of weeks ago, we circulated a link to the World Economic Forum Global Risk Survey. This is something IRM partners with the World Economic Forum on this particular survey, because that underpins the global risk report that the World Economic Forum team put to the Davos meeting every year. And no doubt a lot of you will be very familiar with this, because a lot of risk professionals use it as a scenario sort of generating tool to test their own preparedness for these sorts of global and emerging risks. And there's been a lot of debate that people may have participated in on LinkedIn and similar, as to were we sufficiently prepared for the pandemic? Did we see it coming? Now, the pandemic has been in that top list of global risks for 20 years or so, but it wasn't the top risk. And when you see the process for how they produce these top risks, you'll be able to see it's an issue of priority, and it's very, very difficult to say any of these big risks are more important than the others. And then you get into some questions of bias and recency bias and confirmation bias, and what's in the news today becomes more important. And that's why they're very, very keen to involve the members of the Institute of Risk Management in this, because people who've done risk management training can see their way through some of these biases, and also have a prior training in thinking about risk, so that they can make a really important input into this survey. So if you haven't already done the survey, then please do. It's got to be done by the 8th of October. There'll be a reminder coming out with our IRM newsletter in the next few days with the link. And they're very interested in people, whether you're a senior chief risk officer or whether you've just started in a risk analytics role or whatever. They're not just aiming at very senior people. They're aiming at everybody with an interest in risk or a role in an organisation in risk. So that's the World Economic Forum work. You'll also have seen, if you've kept in touch with IRM, that we've issued a number of new reports over this time. We've done this Alex Larson's piece of work that looks at oil and gas. Well, it's actually not Alex, but Alex was instrumental in preparing it. But you'll have seen that coming out. Everything that we push out is put into our e-newsletters. Also in enterprise risk, put a little picture up there of enterprise risk. That has got some really excellent articles in this time around about how the world is being affected by COVID-19. Just before we leave this slide, the other picture that I put up on the slide there is showing IRM's work still going on. This was IRM India. We have a program in India to try and spread knowledge about risk management and qualifications in risk management through the student population in India, because things work slightly different in India, in that there's not a culture of organisations paying for professional development of the staff once people are in place. They expect to employ a graduate who's got all the certifications. So universities in India will typically offer, alongside your Bachelor of Commerce degree or whatever you're taking, you will also be doing an ACCA qualification or an internal audit qualification or whatever marketing qualification. So you come out of the university with your degree and your professional qualification all in one package, and that's just how they tend to do things in India. So we've been working, the guy in the top left-hand corner there is Harsh Shah, who is IRM's representative in India, runs IRM India for us. And Harsh has been going around really raising awareness about risk management and the fact that you can get qualified in this, and that universities and colleges should be getting involved in offering students with qualifications in risk management. And the thing that the people are holding up in the other picture there is an agreement that we've just signed with the Indian ministry that looks after entrepreneurial businesses and small and medium-sized enterprises, because they also want to introduce risk management across the board to small and medium-sized enterprises across India. So they want to develop some training and some guidance in that area. So this sort of work is what Sanjay, who's in the picture underneath me there, and I do when we do our business development work around the world. And obviously we can't go around and do that at the moment, but we've been switching that online as far as possible. So the last thing I wanted to cover, if you change the slide now, Donna, because I'm going to talk about the IRR sound practice guidance documents. As you probably all know, the Institute of Operational Risk joined the IRM group about a year ago now. And we've been bringing together both the back office organisation, which was one of the key factors around merging the two organisations, in that we can run the back office in an efficient way. But also we want to share the thought leadership and share the intellectual resources that both organisations have. Now, the IOR had these sound practice guidance documents that have been written over the past sort of 5-10 years, and formed a very usable, very user-friendly and concise approach to a number of key risk areas. They are focused very much, obviously, on operational risk, but we think they are also going to be of interest to any members of IRM. So we have had Simon Ashby, who many of you may know, who is a professor of risk management at Berwick Business School in Belgium, but has also done a lot of similar positions around the UK, who's a specialist in operational risk. He was, I think, their chairman at one point. Simon has reviewed all of the sound practice guidance with an aim of coordinating it all, but also bringing it all up to date and ensuring that it aligns with other IRM work. So these are the first 3 that he's finished here. So embedding an operational risk management framework, some additional thoughts on risk culture in the context of operational risk, and also in operational risk appetite and tolerance. So these 3 documents will be coming out in October, and they will be accessible both to members of the IRR and to members of the IRM. And then there's a list underneath, the ones that are coming down the line: scenario analysis, risk categorization, risks and control self-assessment, operational loss events, operational risk governance, key risk indicators. Those will be coming out over the next few months as Simon finishes them off and we get them designed and pushed out. So if you look out for those, and you'll be able to see those, whether you're an IOR member or an IRM member, you will be able to access these. So that's something new to look out for. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. Have any questions come through, Donna, or is everybody quiet?
No, not in the chat, but I just think if anyone is listening in and watching on the screen, etc., if you unmute if you've got a question, or send it through the chat, I can ask Caroline while she's here if there is anything.
And I see that
Juliet's here, yes. So we've got Juliet on the line too. If anyone has any questions about memberships, etc., I think now is the time. If anyone has any of that, it's firstly, I think, Caroline, I know that you're dropping off, but I think it was great to have you here today. It's the first time the Scottish group have had actually a chat from the IRM, and just kind of starting to get to know who the IRM are, what services, what benefits there is in being part of this kind of best practice group, and also your plan A, plan B, and backup plan. It's good to know that we practice what we preach, yeah. So that was kind of took me by surprise there. I'm going to have to make sure I'm in that league as well, and just obviously things, for example, of knowing that we can get involved with the surveys, and that will be coming out, and just our voice matters in terms of board appointments, etc., has been really nice to hear this morning. So I thank you for that. We've not got any questions, so obviously you've covered the material in in depth, so nothing coming out. If anyone does have a burning question, please at the end, you can always contact me, and I'll relay that back to Carolyn, and we'll get back to you on that one. So thank you for that. So I think just moving forward, we have Doug that's on the line. So I'm just going to hand over the presenter to Doug. So bear with me on this one, so that I can know what I'm doing here. So Doug, you should have the presenter now if you share your screen.
Yeah, I'm just got to pick the right screen.
The trials and tribulations of webinars.
Can you see that?
Yes. Yep. We're ready to go. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Obviously, some of the stuff Caroline touched on very briefly. So there are some slides I'm not going to go through. They're just in the pack so that you can read them later. Because there's no point in me just reading what's on the screen for some of the things. It's mainly to do with the content of the new syllabus. I think the key thing is here is that we've moved on, as Caroline said, from I guess old style examinations to new style assessment. And that came about, I was previously the chief examiner, and I handed that over, but part of the reason was that I wanted to move the IRM, I guess, into the modern day learning scenario. So I'm going to take you through the update to the diploma, but touch on some of the other things that we can do. Let's hope this works. So just talk about why we needed to change the consultation process that we had. You know, funny that, isn't it? We asked the customers what they actually wanted, and more importantly, we asked employers what they wanted. I'll touch on that in a minute. I'll go through the sort of key findings of the process. The revised syllabus we'll just talk about briefly because there's a lot of publications around that. And then some transitional arrangements from old to new. COVID-19 impacts, I'm going to talk on about that as well. And then just very briefly, the new learning management system, which is Moodle. Those of you who have studied at university in the last few years will know they use things like Moodle, Learn, Canvas, that kind of thing for the students to study. And funnily enough, right now, that's what universities have switched to. My wife told me that her system, Learn, from the University of Edinburgh, fell over in the first 10 minutes because of the surge in demand. So the opposite didn't do a lot of good work there, but they got it back up and running very quickly. So we obviously had to change things as we're going along. I mean, the Orange Book is one that sticks out because it's been around since 2004 and it's now in 2020 version. And our knowledge, and it's not just the Orange Book, that's the one that sticks out. Our knowledge, which was updated only about 4 years ago, included this information. It's now up to date. So, you know, we struggle sometimes to bring the knowledge up to date. And that's one of the benefits that we now got with our new learning platform, because we can make changes instantaneously. I'll show you that in a second. We are heading towards off-qual registration next year. In Scotland, that's the SQA equivalent. So we will be, you know, getting our qualifications recognised by off-qual. Part of that is that we have to demonstrate that our assessments are valid and reliable. So we actually test students properly, that we're fair to students, that everything is clear and consistent and precise and all that kind of stuff. So this is a key thing going forward, and we've already got the infrastructure in place in terms of giving the material, but also we have to have extra committees, we have to have a qualification development manager, we have to have a qualification quality control manager, and all this kind of stuff that comes with a regulated body. Now, one of the main reasons to doing that is to give more credence to our qualifications. So we do already have agreements with certain universities, but internationally, if we can say that our qualification meets Ofqual level 7 requirements, then we will be able to market that more internationally, because at the moment there are questions being raised about who sort of sets the bar for IRM. It is IRM, but they want someone to say, well, who independently verifies that that is level 7. Okay, so we're on with that. We're happy with it. Our agreement with universities is clear on that, but we do need this more global thing. The global environment, as we all know, is changing, and so we need to adapt to that. In the exams, for example, Caroline talked about we had to, within 3 weeks, just to put it into perspective, in 3 weeks, we had to put into place written exams at home, and we did it by time zone. So all the students were able to sit their exam at 9 o'clock local time, okay? And they were able to do it online. We had very few problems. We did have a couple of problems, mainly just local PC issues rather than the IRM issues, which we sorted virtually all of them out. We had ways of students emailing their scripts to us if they couldn't upload them and that kind of stuff. So very, very good. We also had to look at some new risks, and we took feedback from our customers, and we also had a look at the universities, because the universities are obviously at the forefront of research, and so we wanted to make sure when we started to develop the new diplomas that we'd start to incorporate some of the knowledge that they're already looking at. Okay. So the consultation process, we spoke to employers, we spoke to immediate past students, so they were the people who just passed level module 6. We spoke to the previous 2 cohorts, asked them what their learning journey was. Did they enjoy it? Did it meet their expectations, and so on. We then went to the universities, got knowledge. We spoke to the assessment team. I don't know if you're aware, but most of the assessment team don't work for the IRM as such. They're independent risk professionals, so they're out there, doing the job Monday to Friday, and they just happen to help us out with the assessment. And some of those assessors are external assessors from universities as well. So we took all these views on board. We looked at some of the new risks that are there, some of the old risks that have sort of faded away. And we had a risk leadership survey, which was done at the conference in 2019. And then we had to look at the Ofqual general conditions. So that they're quite important, those conditions. So we had to look at all of that before we moved forward with what we were going to do. And I guess the key findings that came out of this, and this is important for those of you who are looking for new jobs, one of the things employers said is, look, great, okay, so you've done your diploma, but can you do the job? Right? Can you say to me that in 2.5 hours, you can certify someone as a good risk professional and they can walk in and do the job? Can they actually do the job? I mean, it's a very brutal way of putting it, but that's what they were asking. And what they were asking us to do, the IRM to do, was to change our assessment to be more practical rather than theoretical. Now, you cannot ditch the theory because you've obviously got to learn all of that. But the assessment process now is more like a master's degree assignment where you'll study some material and then we give you a practical assignment based on your work. And if that's not possible for distance or privacy reasons, you can pick a case study. But the whole point is that you're taking the theory and you're applying it to a practical problem. Okay. Some key areas were missing from our syllabus: resilience. I don't mean business continuity, I mean the new sort of area of resilience. Risk complexity, if you fiddle around in one area of a risk, does that cause a problem in another area? And also looking at human behavior, because people I mean, the pandemic is a classic example now of human behavior. You put in some risk measures that you want to do, and then all of a sudden the people don't do it. And you have to understand sometimes why that is. Part of that's risk culture. Part of that's just being human beings. You know, if you think about if there's an explosion in a nearby factory, you know, in a hazarded area, the normal rules are that that factory should have sent leaflets out to warn people what to do, etc. But it never works because people want to know what their mum and dad are up to. They want to know what their children are up to at school. Can I go and get them? I'm not shutting the windows because my priority is to go out and make sure my family is safe. So we have to look at all of those. We also found there was duplication across some of the modules because they were built by different people. So we sort of extracted some of the duplication. We also found out that fees weren't a barrier. There was this sort of thing that maybe it was too expensive. Well, actually, I can't remember how much it is in total now, but you end up with the equivalent of a master's degree in risk management. If you were to do that at Glasgow Caledonian University, that would be 11,500 a year. Okay, so I think we're a bit cheaper than that. So they were some of the key things. The new syllabus structure, and there are slides that has what is in there, but I suppose the essential thing here is what was originally in modules 3 to 6 is now in modules 3 to 5. So all the knowledge plus the additional bit of knowledge is in now in modules 3 to 5. And module 6 is a dissertation based on your workplace again, or a case study if you can't do it in your workplace. And the idea is in that final dissertation, module 6, we will expect you to bring in knowledge from modules 3 to 5. Now, you can't bring all the knowledge in, but you're supposed to identify, the key thing is identifying a problem and bringing in the relevant knowledge to apply to that problem. So that's what we're looking at. And those of you who have done master's degrees, that's exactly what happens in a master's degree. The dissertation isn't as big as a master's degree, but you know, it's good enough. So as you can see up there, we've got, if you like, the sort of risk assessment, control and treatment, the organizational oversight perspectives, that's all the governance, etc. Organizational resilience, the perception of society. There is actually a new publication from COSO about environmental risk, if anybody's interested in seeing that. And then the final one is the research method. So it's not teaching you to do academic research, it's teaching you to do business research and then being able to apply that to your business or to a case study. So these are module 3, 4, 5, 6. You can read them at your leisure. I don't want to waste your time on that. You can read the slides. You can download a copy of the study guide from the website. The syllabus from the website. So what's changed in terms of the assessment, if you like, is first of all, there are no more examinations. All right. So you don't have to, this is only modules 3 to 6, by the way. The 1 and 2 are still the multiple choice questionnaires. So all the assessments will be written practical assignments based on your workplace or a case study. It's totally flexible in its approach, apart from you can only do module 6 after you've completed modules 3, 4, and 5. But if you think I'd rather start with module 5 because that's more interesting to me, then you can do that. And then you can go back and do module 3, and you can do module 4. You can do modules 3, 4, and 5 together if you want. You know, you can enroll, I think there's an enrollment that you can enroll for the whole thing now, pay a one-off fee rather than paying individual fees. So we're trying to make it really flexible. And it's also flexible in as much as that with exams, you had to register in September and February, and you would take an exam in November, or you don't have to do that anymore. You can enroll this week, and as long as you reach a particular stage in the course, which for all modules, is section D. Once you've done that, you can submit your first assignment. Okay, now if you study section D in 3 weeks, and because you've dedicated the 160 hours or whatever it is to do that study, you can then submit, and you'll get a mark within about 6 weeks. Now that will be a provisional mark because we will still have exam boards every 6 months, but it means you can study whenever you want. Okay. It won't be easier, but it will be better, I think, is the key message here. So the study materials or the study guides haven't really changed. It's been updated, but we've not dumbed it down by bringing in assessments. In fact, if anything, we've probably made it a bit harder because you're not going to be asked for lists of anything or describe anything, which in exams is a lot easier than the analyze or critique sort of thing. Okay. Still, it could take you from starting from module 1, it can take you up to 3 to 5 years. But as I've said, particularly those people who are maybe in between jobs, if they want to, compress everything into 6 months and they meet the standards, that is fine. Okay, it's totally flexible. If you study, for example, modules 3 and 4 together, and there are 2 assignments in each of the modules. If you pass one assignment in module 3, fail one in module 3, but pass the ones in the 2 in module 4, you can just go back and resubmit your assignment. Okay, so we're being as flexible as we can. We still have the certificates, we still have the diplomas. The one thing that we are discussing at the moment, similar to universities, is whether we will have an intermediate qualification. So those students who finish modules 3 to 5 inclusive, they may decide they don't want to go on and do module 6. For those of you who've studied master's degrees and those who haven't, they have this sort of certificate. So you do so much study, and if you don't want to hand in your submission, you say, I've had enough of this. They do have a postgraduate diploma in whatever subject, and then they get their master's degree when they do their dissertation. So we hope everybody will do their dissertation, because that's really what the employers want you to get from this qualification, is to show how you can apply your knowledge to a workplace. So there are some sample things there. Each module is about 180 to 200 hours. So it's really up to you. I can't emphasize this flexibility enough. We've tried to remove as many barriers as possible. Okay. Transitional arrangements, basically there aren't any, because module 1 and 2 haven't changed, but modules 3 to 6 are totally different now. We did try mapping to see if we could give any exemptions. So if you've done, say, module 3 and 4 in the old syllabus, could you go on and do 5 and 6 in the new? Bottom line was no. That doesn't mean that if you've completed the old syllabus that the qualification means any less than the new qualification. Just the new qualification, just slightly more refreshed and a different approach. And in fact, we do want to encourage that message to go out to students that, just because you finish the old, it doesn't mean it's useless. It was very, very good studying, and it will be respected by us and other people. We're just trying to bring the thing up to date. So,
so
module 1 and
Doug, sorry, on that one, Doug, we have a question, and just to make it very, very clear, because that's the first question we've kind of had, and I think somebody's raising their hand. Don't know how to do that one, but we have a question, and then I'll work out how to do the hand. So the question was very much about if you're partway through the old diploma syllabus, like, for example, if you've got module 4 and 5 in the old syllabus, would you still be able to reach the diploma level or transition and just do the 6 based on the dissertation and the practical, or do you have to go through the old route and then just new people can do this one you're talking about this morning?
Yeah, if you've done 1 and 2, you can transition to the new syllabus. If you've started 3 and 4, you've got to finish through the old syllabus. It's because the knowledge that is in modules 3 to 5 in the new syllabus is all the knowledge that was in modules 3 to 6 in the old syllabus. So you wouldn't have the module 6 knowledge. Now, what we did do is we consulted with the students who were potentially going to be enrolling in June. I think it was in June or February, earlier this year. We asked them if they wanted to enroll now on the old syllabus, saying that if they did that, they wouldn't be able to migrate to the new one, or do you want to hold off 6 months and go straight to the new one? So, I mean, the basic answer is, and we talked about this for about 2 days, that if you're on the old syllabus, you'll close out on the old syllabus. So if you've done, even if you've only done module 3, you'll have to continue. Well, no, you don't, but you'd have to start with the new module 3. Right? So we did try to, but because of all the new stuff coming in and the compression to 3 modules, what was in 4 modules, it's not feasible. You wouldn't be able to do justice to your dissertation. But I just, if you've done 3 and 4, just do the 5 and 6 and get it done. So, but one thing I will say is that I think that in modules 5 and 6 in the exams, the feedback we got for the student for the June exams, because in the June exams, because they're done at home online, and to take account of all the things that could go wrong, like systems dropping and all this kind of stuff, we gave students 6 hours to do the exam, where they would normally have 2.5 hours. Okay, so they were given 6 hours, and the pass rates, surprise, surprise, went up. The quality of the answers went up. So that told us, I mean, there's always this argument of, should you be testing people under pressure, or should you be testing what they know? Okay, and so we took the view that allowing for potential problems of logging in or submitting files, we would give them extra time. And the same will happen in December. So they will be given extra time. In the module 2, I think we only had IRM. We didn't have FS module 2 exam candidates. There are still some exam candidates around. Most people have moved on to the multiple choice questionnaires. They all passed. Every single one of them passed. And the pass rates were up in the other exams as well. For
So
us, yeah, go on, sorry.
Sorry, Doug, we're getting lots of questions for you. So just on that one, so someone's just very, very specific. So just to confirm, if someone was actually partway through the old syllabus, so maybe to, I don't know, to number 5, yeah, if they wanted to take the new modules for whatever particular reason, could they go back and start in module 3 and do the maybe I don't know, potentially based on the way in which they like to work, or they find it easier doing practical than potentially sitting exams, etc. Is that possible to restart at 3, even although you've done maybe 3 and 4, potentially 5 in the old way? Can you do that?
Yeah, if you have started module 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back and start at 3 again, if that's what you want to do. One of the things we did look at was to see if we could make any transitional assessments. So, right now you have to, in the new exam, so the new syllabus, you have to write an assessment. We tried to map all the modules and to identify the gaps. So what was the difference between old 3, new 3, old 4, new 4, to see whether we could, at any stage, just set a simple assignment for students, so that it was almost like a written assessment just to bridge the gap. But it was going to end up being more work for the students. So we sort of said, no, if you want. My recommendation is if you've done 3 and 4, then just finish. Your qualification is going to be equally valid. We have just, if you like, we've made it easier for people to study and brought in this practical element in the new syllabus. I don't want to downgrade what people have already done, because what we've done is important. We've just got a slightly different emphasis and some new knowledge. If they want to do that, there's nothing to stop them doing that. But I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Personally, I wouldn't do it. I would finish. But,
yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay. Yeah, we've got another one. Does the certificate in operational risk management offered through the IOR pages complement or duplicate the IRM qualifications? Good
question, and I don't know the answer to that. But I can go away and find out.
Okay.
The IOR qualification is at a slightly lower level than our modules. I do know that because it's offered through a company called ATTHE, A-T-T-H-E or something, I think ATTHE. And the reason for that is that ATTHE is a recognised body of Ofqual. The IOR isn't. So the qualifications are maintained and developed by IOR, but the compliance with Ofqual is regulated through ATTHE. And what it means is if you search for the qualification, you actually have to enroll on ATTHE rather than the IOR. You do end up with it, but it's a convoluted way of doing it.
Okay. So we can maybe get back to them on that one then.
Yeah, I'll get back to that. I do know it's set at a lower level,
okay.
or it was when we last looked. But I'll get back to them on that, because if there was some kind of mapping, I'll come on to this in a minute. If there was some kind of mapping, we'd use it. So if somebody's already done the IOR, then maybe they could get exemptions from modules 1 and 2. I don't know. I'd have to check. I think the difference is that our 2 certificate levels are FS and IRM, whereas the IOR is operational risk. So I will get back to people on that. I'll get back to you, Dara, and you can feed it out to the team.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I've got some other questions, but I'll wait till you've done more and then we'll ask them, okay?
Sorry, if I lost where we were. Transitional arrangements that we talked about briefly. The old syllabus we hope will finish in November 2021, but people have this 3-year cycle depending on when they started, so we will honour that. Okay, so we're hoping everybody will be through by November 21. Based on people's registration and doing the exams online, having a bit more time and doing it in a slightly more relaxed environment, that we will get everybody through. And I do want to make the point here, I know it's been raised before, there are no quotas in the exams. Everybody can pass. If they demonstrate what the exam's asking, they'll be passed. If we have a 100% pass rate, which we did with the IRM module 2, that's not a problem. We don't have a quota system. It's just, if you don't meet the requirement, you don't meet the requirement. So, and you can see if you saw the results. Traditionally, when I took over, module 6 had an appalling pass rate. It was less than 30%. And that was just ridiculous. And I managed to get it up to about 65. And I think it was nearly 70% this time. And that was putting people off, doing the diploma, because it's what's the point? I study, I do 3, 4, and 5, and then I fail at the final hurdle. And so we made some changes there. We didn't dumb it down, we just made it better for the students. So there are no quotas. That's all I'm going to say. So in COVID-19, the existing module 2 to 6 exams were done online using Moodle. We're doing the same in November. It was great for us because all the exam scripts were in one day. It normally takes 3 weeks to get them in. We were able to get the results out to students faster, which is great for the students, and the pass rates went up. And I think the general feedback we got was people enjoyed having the time. There was one sort of thing that came out that we've put out to students is don't just cut and paste, because obviously when you're online doing this, because you download your exam, you do your script, there's a risk that you will copy and paste something into your answer, but you don't actually describe what it is, so you just cut and paste a diagram in and you don't say anything about it. You don't earn a lot of marks for that. You can bring it in, but you have to say why it's relevant to the question. So in the instructions for the exams this time around, we've made that clear so people understand. And most people, nobody went past the 6 hours. Let's put it that way. For the MCQ exams, mainly for modules 1 and 2, obviously, and for the digital risk and the supply chain risk exams this time around, we're looking at something called remote proctoring, and that's because we're not sure what's going on with COVID. And that's just a technical term for you being able to sit in your home and do the online exam without going to an exam center. Okay, and the proctoring is the monitoring of it. We are going to use Pearson VUE, but if Pearson VUE are not able to do it for whatever reason, we have a backup with another company, and the company uses artificial intelligence, and that you will take the exam through the RVLE, on Moodle. You will take it through there, and they will monitor you with artificial intelligence. So when you log in, you have to have your camera on your laptop, and you have to turn it around your room to show there's nothing on the walls in your room. And if you're looking away from the screen too often, it will tell us you're looking away from the screen too often, and so on and so on. And it gives you a report at the end of it and says, this person was, spent more time looking away from the screen than at the screen. I think the vast majority of students are fine. They'll be too focused on that 90 minutes doing the MCQs to worry about anything. But it just, for us, it gives us a bit of sort of quality control to make sure that people aren't cheating. So there's nothing wrong. If you don't have this, someone who's really good could be standing behind the candidate reading the answers out to them. So we have to have that. And it can pick up noise and stuff. So, we'll see if we need that. Module 3 to 6 assignments are unaffected. Okay, so there are people who have started studying the new syllabus, and they will just continue because the assignments can be submitted when you're ready. You just got to have met, to do assignment 1, you have to got to section D in the course. To do assignment 2, you have to complete it and had assignment 1 graded. If you don't pass assignment 1, you can still do assignment 2 and then resubmit assignment 1. You just have to have done it, okay, and submitted it. So that they remain unaffected. They will be coming in throughout the year now. So rather than just having a massive hit of exam scripts in June and November, these things will be trickling in throughout the year. And it gives a lot of flexibility to students. You don't have to travel to submit your assignments. It's the same with the exams online. You don't have to travel to a center. So, and that's not so bad in the UK, but if you're in Sierra Leone or somewhere like that, it can be a major challenge to get to an exam center. So there we go. I'm just going to see if I've got this still open. So I think I'll move it to the right screen. This is, rather than me talk about it, this is the new virtual learning environment, our learning management system. All the courses are here. I'm logged in. This is my screen. I can go to my course. I'm just going to pick our course. All the courses are here. They're all the same. I'm going to go to the, we'll take a look at module 3. I'm not going to go through, I just want to show you what's in here. So can you see this okay? Yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people in my house on webinars at the moment because everybody's working from home. So here you can see the screen here. And these, there's the introduction, there's risk identification, qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, risk control part 1, part 2, stuff like that. And then we have announcements up here. The announcements are, so if one of the course coaches sees a really good article, or if Caroline, these things are published from the IOR, we can just put an announcement in there saying, hey guys, why don't you take a look at this? And it goes to all students who are registered on the course. There's a forum here for this particular, well, every course has got forums, so students can interact on here. Previously, they had to use LinkedIn, which, you know, we had to control that by taking people off and putting people on. We don't have to do that anymore. It's all here. I'm going to come out of here because I'll ask you guys, you can tell me. We've got a testing environment here, which is our sandbox. So students, when they first registered, so they get familiar with the system, can go in here. And I think on the right-hand side here, you can see a blog menu. So I've asked the coaches, and I'd be interested if anybody, we can have blogs here as well as having forums, you can have blogs. You can do anything. There is a search facility here. So if you want to look up risk appetite, you can type it in here and it will, I think I've got risk appetite statements there. I click on search and it should bring up all the references to that thing. So it's using modern technology. I think if I go back to the home page, all the courses have got videos in them now. There are links to external videos. There's all kinds of stuff in here. It's far more interactive. If I was to go into a course, you can see, if I go into this risk management, the first module, you can see here, this is a book, which is the same as what the study guide was. So if you want to print a chapter out, you can do that. All the knowledge in that book is in the lesson. So the lesson takes you through the study in phases, and inside there are the activities. So previously in the study guide, you had an activity, and then you write it up, and then you have to go to the end of the module to find out what the answer was. It doesn't happen now. You put it in, and once you submit it, the answer appears, or the suggested answer to that activity appears immediately after. We also have quizzes in here, so you can test your knowledge. And all the courses are like that. You can see here, there's a restriction on it, so we can put restrictions in, which we've done. For example, you can't submit assignment 1 until you finish unit D in the module, and so on. It's just so much more interactive. Anyway,
so Doug, on that, we've got a question about I know you're going through talking about all the kind of new support and the quizzes, etc. for the new module. In terms of the questions coming for obviously a student that's sitting the diploma at the moment and is currently on their way through that, is there any additional one-to-one support offered as part of completing the old syllabus other than extended duration of the examination? So does the IRM have any other, you know, like sources of tutoring or anything in terms of one-to-one support for maybe someone that's kind of struggling in terms of maybe a module?
I think if they're struggling, the first protocol is to go to the module coach. Okay, and I think unfortunately that will have to be through LinkedIn at the moment, because I don't think the old courses are not on here, but it's something something I'll speak to Barbara about, because although we've cut off the thing, and if there's enough demand, we can run another webinar specifically for that unit, that module. But normally the point of call is normally the module coach. They can send, and if the coach can't answer it, then someone from the IRM will come back and answer it. Okay. If they're struggling with time and stuff like that, it's best to contact the student support team. So, if they are, well, generally if they're struggling, it's probably best to contact the student support team, because they can then maybe get the coach to get in contact with them. Because I know some students might be a bit nervous about exposing themselves, saying, oh, I'm struggling or whatever. So we don't want people to feel like that.
Okay.
Okay, so I would go to student support first. Student
support. Okay, thank you.
And it's no good on here. It's great if you're on the new syllabus, because you can do it all automatically. Let me just log out and shut this down. The other thing about the new thing is it's available on mobile devices, so you can have it on your phone, you can have it on your tablet, you can have it wherever you want. All the assignments are submitted via Turnitin. We are planning to use something called the big blue button, but we've got so many priorities ahead of that at the moment. This will replace webinars like this. It's a special sort of webinar piece of software designed for education. So it has things like virtual classrooms, virtual syndicate rooms. It's got a whiteboard, so I can ask, we're asking questions here. People can type the questions and they'll appear on the board. And, the class can discuss them, not just me firing an answer back down. So it is coming along, but it'll probably be early next year. Every course has its own forum, and we can push out notifications. And the key thing is that we can update a course in real time. So if we find a problem with the course, or there's a new publication or something, we can just put that in it, and the minute we put it in, it's live. Okay. Now we have to be careful about that, because people may have studied units 1 to 4, and then we put something in unit 1 and they've not seen it. If that happens, we might, depending on whether we consider it to be critical or not, we might notify students about it. And it'll be more about using it if they need to in their assignment. But it's highly flexible. If anybody wants to have a look at it, they just have to go to, it's in the slide deck. If you go to www.irmvle.org, you can log in as a guest. Questions? Do you have any more questions?
I don't have any more on the question board that I'm looking at. I think there are quite a few questions obviously going through that, and we have to get, just to obviously, Doug, we need to go back in terms of the question on the operational risk. I think that's the one that's outstanding, and we've just had. Thank you very much. It's been very informative. So I think I've not seen any questions. I think, thank you for taking people through that. Obviously, it's a big change in terms of the way in which, people will learn, and also how people will be able to transition through their learning and risk management, etc. So it's nice to see that it seems very. I'm personally not doing that. I've done this, but it looks a lot. I suppose even for people that are not great with technology, it looked quite intuitive. So that's great. I'm a little bit scared about the AI right enough watching you. Need to get more involved in that. That's great. But thank you for taking the time to come. I know that there is people on the call today who are either partway through or looking at taking on the new module 3 onwards. So it will give everyone a good insight of what to expect, and how to keep going, and who to talk to in terms of student services and support, as you've mentioned to people. So thank you for that. I haven't seen any other questions coming through, so I'm assuming that everyone is.
Could I just make one point for your listeners?
Yeah, of course.
And that is, we've talked about the new syllabus and everything, blah, blah. There are 2 routes to get, if you like, your certified IRM membership outside of the exam structure. One of it is if you are a sort of a reasonably, not a chief risk officer, but if you're a reasonably senior manager, like you're the risk manager of an organization, and you have 5 years experience, you can apply through the accreditation for prior learning. It's an application form. It just has the key sort of learning areas from each of the modules. And if you can demonstrate that you have the experience, so that you've done things in there at least once, okay, we can assess whether you have the relevant experience to be granted exemption. The other one is if you are a chief risk officer, same process, slightly different, but they will respect what you've already learned in life, and again, so it's around about 5 years in either the management position or the senior position, and you can apply for that. And that means you have to pay a fee, but it's an awful lot cheaper, and you don't have to study for a long time. I just put that out there. It goes, because some people have maybe been doing the job a long time, and they think, I've been doing this for years. What benefit is there me studying? Well, get exemption for what you're doing, and that's backed by Ofqual. It's not something we've made up, so it is a valid assessment process. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Doug. So I'm just going to take over the slide, so you could just maybe tell me if you can see my screen now with my last slide.
I can, yeah.
Yep. I don't know what I can see, guys, but I'm trying. So I think first of all, thank you for everyone joining us today. Hopefully you got something out of today in terms of understanding more about the IRM, understanding what's new and what's coming up, and how the IRM are changing to the current surroundings that can support us with resources and our development. So thank you very much for coming on today. Feedback, as always, if there anything, please contact me through the regional group on the IRM regional webpage. In terms of keeping your eyes peeled, we've got on the 9th of October, we are hosting a webinar, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, in terms of risk and transformational change, where we have the CIR programme risk team coming on to talk about their award, and how the lessons learned and best practice that they have been able to learn throughout their journey of transformational change. So that will be really interesting. So if you're talking to your colleagues, please let them know. In order to get you need to register on the IRM's regional web page in order to get the meeting link, just like you have this morning. So for anyone that's looking at risk insights and best practice of how to embed risk management through kind of transformational change programs, that will be a goodie. So we've got 2 people coming, Siobhan Crawford and Stephen Harrison, to talk to you about that. So I look forward to seeing you on the 9th. Just before I finish off, thanks Doug. Carolyn's had to go and do another presentation, but Doug's still on, so thank you very much, Doug, for your time today, and thank you everyone. So I'm going to give us the 6 minutes back, probably get a cup of tea before we go to another webinar or whatever we're doing now in the COVID, the constant headphones on. So thank you everybody, and I will speak to you all on the 9th of October.